This is TJ from Rock and Road. Today I'm going to show you how to revalve a set of King 2.5 inch coilover shocks. Let's get started. First thing you're going to want to do is remove the shock and then pull off your springs. Then you're going to want to get your shock device and get it secured. Next thing you're going to want to do is you can leave the gas pressure in for this part. You're going to want to undo the set screw Allen on the top of the closure nut. There's that. And then you're going to need a set of spanner wrench like this. And you're going to actually put it on top of the closure nut and unscrew it. I like to leave gas in the shock up till this point, because if you remove the gas, the whole gland assembly underneath sometimes will spin with this closure nut. So I just unscrew it, unscrews right from the gland assembly, slide that closure nut up, and then you're gonna let the gas out of the reservoir. There should not be any oil coming out of the shock right now. If there's any oil coming out at this point, then there's a bad internal seal on your divider piston. Let the gas out, get a push tool, go ahead and push your gland assembly down. Get yourself a nice pick. There's a retaining clip in there. Go ahead and remove that. Set it aside. And then what I like to do is actually take a little bit of grease and put it on the ID of the body. What that does is it lets the gland O-ring on the outer diameter of that gland, it lets it lip over that internal C-clip groove of the body. So I grease it up, then you're going to pull the whole valving assembly out. That's the piston and the valve shims, and that just pulls out like that. There is going to be a little bit of oil you're going to have to drain off. So just be prepared for that with the drip tray. You go ahead and get the eyelet end secured in a vise. And this is the portion of the shock that we're going to actually be revalving. We're going to be changing the valve shims. Right now there's just the body in the vise. It has oil in it. What you could do is go ahead and put gas back in it, and I like to do that now because what it does is lets you check for any leaks in that divider piston in the reservoir, because if there was a bad O-ring in the divider piston in the reservoir, then it would actually be leaking through and you'd be seeing gas bubbles pop up through the oil sitting in the body. So it's a good practice to start charging it early on, and it lets you keep an eye on those seals. I usually will throw a rag over it just in case it wants to shoot up on you. And you're safe to fully charge this. That divider piston isn't going to be coming out of the body, obviously. Just make sure you keep the body covered so that any oil doesn't shoot out if that divider piston somehow got pressed down during disassembly. Once you get the shaft by itself, there will be a wear band or piston band. Looks like that. Go ahead and just remove that. Next, you're going to want to get your ratchet or wrench, pull the nut off, and then slide the piston assembly up. The top stack is your rebound. The stack that sits underneath that's the compression, and these are the stacks that you're going to change for your valving characteristics. Keep track of the way the piston is oriented. There is a compression side and there is a rebound side. The compression side generally has larger ports, it's flowing more oil, and rebound has smaller ports. Since this is just a revalve, you don't need to pull off the gland assembly or remove any of the seals. If you were doing a rebuild, this is when you'd pull the gland assembly off and replace any seals that needed to be serviced. So there's a top out plate that has to stay on there. That's the thicker plate. That ends basically the valving stack. And then you get your shims, pick out what you need for whatever your changes are. Now if you're ordering shim stacks straight from the manufacturer or from us, they're going to come zip tied in a little bundle all together. So you'll just remove it, cut the zip tie, and put it in when you go to reassemble it. So this one I'm going to make my changes, and we'll go from there. After you made your valving changes, you're ready for reassembly. All you do is take your stack, put your constant, that's your constant washer, put it on the stack, put your shims on there, put your piston back on. Larger ports will be the compression side, it will go facing down. Go ahead and put your piston back on. Sure, you can check your bleed holes. I won't go over that here, but you can plug your bleed holes, or you could drill them out bigger depending on the valving characteristics you're looking for. Make sure there's your constant on the rebound stack too. That's the thicker constant washer. Then you could go ahead and put your nut back on. Make sure you tighten it down and torque it to spec. You can even put some Loctite on these. Alright, now you're ready for reassembly. Okay, now you're going to top off the shock with any oil that you might have lost during disassembly. I like to tie a towel around the shock body because you will end up spilling a little bit over. And you can get your piston and shaft assembly all ready for to go back into the shock. So you take your wear band, make sure you seat it around the piston nicely, make sure it doesn't catch or lip over, make sure the tabs interlock into each other. I usually put the tabs in first, and then go ahead and guide it in and just slide it down in. Now oil will shoot through those open bleed holes, so kind of cover it and block any oil from shooting out, and then you can actually just kind of bleed the shock initially, any of that air that might be trapped between the shims or in the piston. Now's a good time to bleed it all out. Okay, once you have it all bled, go ahead and slide the spacer down and slide your gland assembly. Pull the whole assembly as far up as you can without getting the piston out of the oil, and then get your gland assembly ready to slide down in. What I like to do is just start to press it down, and now you're going to push it down and get any of that air out. But first you're going to want to relieve the nitrogen gas charge. So you could press it down. So let the gas out, go ahead and work your gland assembly down. Make sure you're pressing out any of that air under there. Go ahead and grab your retaining C-clip, make sure you don't forget this part, put it back in, get it seated all the way around into the C-clip groove Sometimes you could use a pick to coerce it into the groove if it won't want to seat, but it should just snap right in. Okay, once it's seated, you're ready to hit it back with nitrogen, fill her back up. I usually stand back because if that C-clip didn't seat all the way, it could come rocketing out. So I hit it with gas. Take your towel. I like to wipe any residual oil that comes up. Check for any leaks. Clean your closure nut. And then you're good to thread your closure nut right back onto the gland. Take your pair of spanner wrenches, snug it up. Don't kill it, just snug it up. That's why you have that set screw. And spin that Allen set screw down so it puts a little pressure on that gland assembly, and that keeps this closure nut from ever backing off. Move your towel. Loosen the vise. And the last thing we do is check the gas pressure. And set it to 150 psi. And then what I like to do is spray a little soapy water on the schrader valve and all the way around the cap to make sure that there's no gas leaking out of the reservoir. And that's it. Reinstall and you're good to go. Alright guys, that's how you revalve a King 2.5 coilover shock. If you like what you see, please subscribe to our channel, and if you have any questions about rebuilding, servicing, or tuning shocks, feel free to leave us a comment or check out our website, rockandroadperformance.com. Thanks.